They say reality cracked for exactly 4 minutes and 13 seconds. A moment when shadows moved like liquid and light bent in ways it shouldn't. When it was over, 80,000 people had changed. The government calls them spatial manipulation anomalies. The media calls them powered individuals. They call themselves Parallaxers. I document their stories, not because I want to, but because they demand to be told. The shadows whisper them to me. The spaces between moments reveal them, and reality itself seems to be using my words as a blueprint for something larger. These are their stories, or maybe their warnings, or maybe their prophecies of what's still to come. These are the Parallaxers. What happens when a teenager's voice can break more than just rules? Dr. Diana Martinez thought she understood sound waves until her daughter's emotions started shattering windows. Now she's racing to help Maya control her powers before the government decides she's too dangerous to remain free. But in the symphony of destruction, they might just find a harmony that changes everything.
The first time my daughter's voice echoed, she was arguing with me about her curfew. Normal teenage stuff. But when 16-year-old Maya shouted,
"You never listened to me anyway,"
her words physically rippled through our house, shattering every window and making my ears ring for hours. That's how we learned she was a parallaxer. I'm Dr. Diana Martinez, and I used to study sound waves at MIT. Now I study my daughter, trying to understand how her emotions turned into sonic weapons. The government calls it acoustic emotional resonance. Maya calls it her epic voice mod. I call it terrifying. Deep breaths, Maya, I say through the intercom. She's in our retrofitted basement, walls lined with acoustic foam, specialized dampeners humming. Let's try the exercises again.
"I'm tired, Mom."
Her voice comes back, carefully modulated. Even a whisper from her can shake the foundations if she's not careful.
"We've been at this for hours."
Just one more set. Remember what happened at school? She doesn't respond, but I know she's thinking about it. 3 weeks ago, a boy in her class made a cruel joke about her having to wear a medical mask to dampen her verbal emissions, but he didn't know that. Her instinctive,
"Shut up,"
broke every bone in his right arm. The official story was that he fell down the stairs. The guilt eats at her. Maya's always been kind, always stood up against bullies. Now she has to measure every word, every laugh, every sob. Do you know what it's like to tell your teenage daughter she can't cry out loud? That her joy needs to be contained? That every strong emotion could become a weapon? Through the observation window, I watch her sit cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by my jury-rigged equipment. Sound wavelength monitors, emotional resonance detectors, harmonic dampeners, a mother's desperate attempt to science her way through this.
"Okay,"
she says finally.
"One more set."
We start with the basics. Controlling volume, pitch, emotional intensity. Maya speaks phrases I've carefully selected while I monitor the sonic patterns. I feel calm. I am at peace. My voice is my own. The readings stay steady, progress. Then we move to the harder stuff.
"I miss Dad,"
she says, and the monitors spike. Her voice carries the weight of grief, making the equipment rattle. My ex-husband Steve left 2 months after Maya's powers manifested. Said he couldn't handle it, couldn't handle her. Good, I lie, watching the destruction radius calculations. You kept it contained, much better than last week. What I don't tell her is that her power is growing. Each outburst carries more force, more range, more potential for harm. The dampeners that worked last month barely contain her now. We've been invited to government research facilities, offered specialized training. I've seen the NDAs, the relocation contracts, the thinly veiled threats. I've also seen the footage of other parallaxers in containment. Maya doesn't know I hired a hacker to get those files, doesn't know I spend my nights analyzing them, looking for alternatives. A soft knock interrupts our session. Through the security camera, I see Lisa from next door. She's been bringing dinner 3 times a week since Steve left. Today she has company, her brother James, recently back from overseas deployment. Break time. I tell Maya through the intercom. Lisa brought company. Maya's face lights up. She likes Lisa, who treats her normally despite having witnessed several sonic incidents. We head upstairs, Maya wearing her dampening mask, me carrying my tablet with the monitoring software. Dinner is almost normal. Lisa chatters about neighborhood gossip while James shares sanitized war stories. Maya manages to laugh quietly at his jokes. I almost relax. Then James drops his fork, and the sharp clang startles Maya. Her gasp of surprise hits him like a physical blow, sending him stumbling back. Military training kicks in. He reaches for a weapon that isn't there, shouts a warning to take cover. Maya's panic at his reaction amplifies through her power.
I'm sorry.
The words pulse with fear, cracking the dining room windows. James drops to the ground, combat instincts taking over, which scares Maya more. It's a feedback loop of sound and fear. But then Lisa does something remarkable. She starts singing, off-key, loud, and cheerful. Sweet Caroline of all things. The sheer unexpectedness of it breaks through Maya's panic. James, still on the floor, starts laughing. The tension shatters like our windows.
Good times never seem so good.
Lisa continues, gesturing for us to join in.
So good, so good, so good.
James adds from under the table. And Maya, my beautiful, powerful, terrified daughter, starts humming along. The sound ripples out, but not destructively. For the first time, her power carries something other than fear or pain. The broken glass begins to vibrate, creating tiny harmonies.
Holy shit.
James says, emerging from under the table.
That's beautiful.
Maya pulls down her mask, carefully, and keeps humming. The glass chimes sympathetically. She's never done this before. Creative resonance instead of destruction. My monitors show completely new patterns.
Mom,
She whispers.
are you seeing this?
I am. I'm seeing my daughter discover that her power isn't just a weapon. I'm seeing possibilities we never considered. The next day, I start reorganizing the basement. Less dampening foam, more musical instruments. I call in favors from my acoustics research days. If Maya can create harmonies from broken glass, what else might she do with proper training? We still practice control, still work on containing the destructive potential. But now we also experiment with creation. Maya learns to shape sound waves, to create pockets of perfect acoustics, to project her voice with surgical precision. She starts taking music theory alongside her regular classes. Lisa's brother becomes a regular visitor, bringing his military experience and surprising musical knowledge.
Sound has always been a weapon,
He tells Maya.
but it's also been healing, art, communication. The power isn't good or bad. It's all in how you use it.
6 months after the dining room incident, Maya gives her first concert. In our reinforced basement with an audience of 3, she creates symphonies from broken glass and controlled resonance. The sound is like nothing I've ever heard. Pure emotion made audible, fear and joy and hope all mixed together. The government still calls occasionally about containment options. I send them our research instead. Peer-reviewed papers on emotional acoustics and therapeutic applications of sonic resonance. They've stopped mentioning relocation. Yesterday, Maya helped deliver a neighbor's baby. She stood outside the delivery room and hummed frequencies that reduced pain and promoted cellular healing. The doctors can't explain why it was the easiest birth they've ever seen. Today, she's teaching Lisa's tone-deaf brother to sing.
You know what's weird, Mom?
She says over breakfast, no mask needed.
When the event happened, when I first got this power, I thought it would stop me from ever having a normal life. But maybe it's helping me build a better one.
Her words don't shake the house anymore. They don't need to. They're powerful enough on their own.
Author's note: Maya Martinez now runs a specialized therapy center, combining traditional counseling with what she calls emotional resonance healing. They say if you listen carefully during sessions, you can hear broken pieces coming together in perfect harmony. History leaves fingerprints on more than just paper. Jack Dale can read memories stored in objects, making him the perfect historical authenticator. But when every artifact carries the weight of the past, how do you separate truth from the lies people tell themselves? Some memories want to stay buried, others demand to be witnessed.
When you can relive other people's memories, you learn that everyone lies about their past, especially to themselves. I discovered my ability during my grandmother's funeral. As I touched her favorite brooch, suddenly I was there, Saigon, 1975, watching her smuggle an entire family onto one of the last helicopters out of the city. No one in our family knew she'd been a CIA operative. She took that secret to her grave, or would have if I hadn't become a parallaxer. The doctors call it mnemonic absorption, the ability to experience memories stored in objects. The government calls it a security risk. I call it professional hazard, now that I work as a historical authenticator.
The rules are simple, Mr. Dale.
My latest client says, sliding a tarnished pocket watch across the conference table.
Verify the watch's authenticity as a Civil War artifact. Determine its historical value. Do not, under any circumstances, dig into my family's history.
Everyone says that last part. Nobody means it. Of course, Mrs. Harrison, I reply, already slipping on my gloves. They're not for protection. Memories pass right through them, but they make clients feel better. Standard authentication only. I pick up the watch and the world dissolves. Blood and gun smoke. A Union soldier clutches the watch, using it to reflect sunlight, signaling to Confederate troops. Double agent. Bet Raylanol. The watch passes hands through decades of guilt and hidden shame. I set the watch down carefully. Mrs. Harrison leans forward, pearls gleaming in the office light.
Well?
It's authentic, I say, choosing my words carefully. Late 1863, carried by Lieutenant James Monroe Harrison at Gettysburg. Historical value approximately $45,000 to the right collector. I don't mention seeing her great-great-grandfather commit treason. The memories aren't always kind to family legends.
Excellent.
She reaches for the watch, but I hold up a hand. There's more. There's always more. This watch, it doesn't just have Civil War memories. It was used again in 1942. Something about Operation Paperclip. Mrs. Harrison's face goes pale.
That's outside the scope of our agreement.
Your grandfather used it to time Nazi scientist extractions after World War II. The memories are significant. I struggle to keep my voice professional. The images are still burning behind my eyes.
I'll pay double your fee to forget that part,
she says sharply. That's not how my ability works, Mrs. Harrison. I can't selectively forget. Though God knows I've tried. But I can help you understand it. This is usually where clients storm out, taking their historically significant but morally compromised artifacts with them. But Mrs. Harrison surprises me.
Tell me,
she says quietly.
Tell me what you saw.
So I do. I tell her about both sides of her family's history, the heroism and the horror, the sacrifice and the shame. By the end, she's crying, but they're the kind of tears that clean rather than stain.
What do I do with this information?
She asks. That's not my expertise, I say. I just experience the memories. What you do with the truth is up to you. After she leaves, I take a moment to center myself. Memory absorption takes a toll. Too many lives, too many secrets, too many moments never meant to be shared. Sometimes I dream other people's nightmares. My phone buzzes, another client. A museum this time, wanting authentication of civil rights-era artifacts. These are always rough. So much pain stored in such small objects. Batons that struck protesters, lunch counter seats that witnessed history, fire hose nozzles that still remember the pressure and the screams. But they're important. Memory isn't just about the past. It's about how we understand ourselves now. I check my calendar. 3 more appointments today. A Holocaust museum wanting verification of a child's shoe. A wealthy collector with a suspected forgery of Malcolm X's glasses. A family trying to prove their grandfather was at Stonewall. Everyone wants to touch history. Few are prepared for history to touch back. My assistant Jen pokes her head in.
You okay? That Harrison authentication seemed intense.
Just processing, I say. Jin's a temporal empath, another flavor of parallaxer. She can't read memories, but she knows when they're weighing heavy.
Ready for the museum consultation?
She hands me a coffee.
You know, before the event, people just used carbon dating and provenance research. No one had to carry all this emotional baggage.
True, but they also missed so much of the story. Take the civil rights artifacts we're about to examine. Traditional authentication would tell us their age, their composition, their market value. But I'll feel the hope and fear in that lunch counter seat. I'll taste the courage it took to sit there. I'll experience firsthand why we can never go back.
Sometimes I wonder
Jin says,
if that's why the event gave you this specific power. The world was forgetting too much.
maybe she's right. Every parallaxer I've met seems to have abilities that reflect something larger than themselves. We're not just changed. We're changing how humanity understands itself. I pack my authentication kit, gloves, documentation forms, and the special voice recorder that doesn't short out when I'm deep in a memory. The museum curator is waiting.
Just be careful today.
Jin says.
That shoe from the Holocaust Museum, it's going to be rough.
I know. I always know. But someone has to remember. Someone has to witness. Someone has to make sure these memories aren't lost. Because here's the thing about memories. They're not just about the past. They're about right now, about who we are and who we're becoming. Every object tells a story, and those stories shape our future. So I'll keep touching history, keep feeling its pain and triumph, keep bearing witness to the things humanity tries to forget. It's not just a job, it's a responsibility. The memories aren't always kind, but they're always true. And in a world where reality itself has shifted, truth might be the most valuable thing we have left.
Author's note. They say certain museums now have special sections that can only be authenticated by memory absorbers, objects too painful or powerful for traditional methods. If you visit late at night, you might see someone wearing gloves, moving from artifact to artifact, bearing witness to the weight of history. A girl who breaks reality with sound, and a man who reads the memories in objects. Simple enough on the surface, but I've noticed something in the way Maya's sound waves interact with the memories Jack extracts. They create patterns in the shadows, patterns that shouldn't exist. There's a radio operator in Tulsa picking up signals from parallel universes who might help us understand why. But that's a story for another time. For now, watch the vibrations in your windows, and if you find yourself holding an antique, perhaps think twice before asking what memories it holds. Until next time, this is the Parallaxers.